It took 4 episodes, but I couldn't wait. No, that didn't take long. No. It's Romania Black. We're on episode 4 of To Be Hero X. And yeah, I should be watching something else tonight, and I'm not. So I got home from work, and I was like, you know what? I want to watch To Be Hero X because we left off on quite a little cliffhanger after we got to know Firm Man last episode. We met Firm Man, we dethroned Firm Man, and then we found out that somehow Moon, who I thought had escaped, that tea is too hot to drink yet, who I thought had escaped, has been captured by God's Eye, formerly known as Enlightener, and now our dear sweet Lin Ling, aka Nice, has to go and rescue her. So, do I think that it's a trap and that it's not really Moon? I do. Am I going to be curious how they found her if she doesn't have the trust values and disappeared and didn't have the ray gun? We'll find out. We'll see. But I am really excited. I was in the Discord channel today on Patreon, and the moderator, Be Happy, has been watching ahead of me so that they can check the comments, and they're on episode 14, and somebody, I think it was Potater, was like, wow, you're really liking this series. And they're like, no. I honestly, if I didn't have other series to watch on this channel, I would be just munching it up because the series is getting a little wee bit addictive. So with that being said, before we get started, since I haven't gotten the chance to check the comments for episodes 2 and 3 yet, I'll be doing that next week for episode 5. I do want to go ahead and give a shout out to our Patreon, especially our philanthropy tier. I'm thankful for everybody on Patreon because you all help keep my channel afloat. You help me to inspire me to do what I do, and I super appreciate all of your support and all the comments and all the feedback that I get on that channel. We do a lot of fun stuff over on the Patreon. So our philanthropy tier, they throw me a couple extra dollars each month because they're amazing people. So thank you to Alex Cornejo, to Alexandra Q, to Be Happy, to Dana, to Damage3245, to Daniel, to Devorin, to Destiny Marie, to Diana Williams, Ichu, Eric, Fisho, Ghostly, Turnip, James, as well as El Freya, Lou Genesis, Lyndon Murphy, Rast, Rose Jennison, Sunspots, Translucent Men, Shimoyama, Zero Anti-Zero, Nicholas, Sean, and Jason N. Thank you all so much for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. And if you can't support me over on Patreon, that's totally okay. In this economy, I get that. But if you cannot support me on Patreon, and even if you can, please make sure that you are liking this video. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel so you can see To Be Hero X every week on the channel. And then also drop me a comment down below and let me know how you're enjoying the reactions. So yeah, but that's my little pitch for the day. Otherwise, I am ready to dive in. I'm still not watching the OP and ED, but I'm sure in a couple episodes, we'll just see where we go. If not, I'll watch it at the end. It'll be all right. So I am pretty excited, y'all, but we're not going to waste any more time. I got off work and I was like, I got my hot tea ready. Let's dive in. So we are going to start episode 4 of To Be Hero X. And we're going to see what goes down with Nice versus God's Eye. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. You know, I was about to give this show a little bit of critique because it felt like Nice and Rek and their yaoi relationship was fitting into the whole bury your gaze kind of mentality. But then I realized Lee Hao-lin is not just dooming the yaoi, he's just dooming all relationships. And that's the type of feminism we approve of. No! Oh my God! Wow! What the fudge? Oh my God! Wow! Okay. Well, I had lots of things. I was gonna pause it, and I'm like, I guess I don't have to do that now. We have things we're gonna need to talk about, but so Moon's dead. Well, I have lots of things I want to say about the ending and Lin Ling and everything, but okay. So as we know, the world now knows that Nice is dead. So there's that. So the world now knows that Nice is dead. And we're going to try to erase this and restart it and make it look nicer. And I'm glad I can call him Lin Ling now. I'm glad I can call him Lin Ling, and I'm not going to have to get confused with calling him Nice. I'm glad that has been established. So the Enlightener, the Enlightener has indeed become God's Eye, which we're gonna working for the Spotlight organization. One thing that's kind of interesting, and I guess this goes along with it, is that the Spotlight organization kind of evades all real responsibility, sort of like the commission, sort of like the Truman Foundation. We'll talk about that. But because you never see like the Enlightener being like, well, I was seduced by the Spotlight organization. It's just, oh, he's a villain, so he must be associated with them. And he doesn't really throw the Spotlight organization under the bus. He doesn't have time to. Lin Ling cleaned his clock this episode, which I love Lin Ling so much. We'll talk about him. Bless his heart. But the same was with the boss character back in episode 1. He really, the Spotlight organization somehow manages to evade having any awareness until after the fact. And then after the fact, the news reporters are like, oh yes, the Spotlight organization remains a blight on the commission and a center of fear. And I'm like, nobody really, like, you know they're the center of bad guys, but you don't know where they are. It's interesting. And then we'll talk about the commission. That whole mess and this tournament that's coming up and all like 15 days till this tournament. And like, that was Isol, by the way. Isol's definitely the one that put a bullet through Moon's head. We're going to talk about that and all the unethical things about that. So yeah, let's get into this. So as far as we know, Nice is no longer. I am really glad that when Lin Ling powered up to become a hero, he didn't just turn back into Nice. Because what I thought was going to happen for a hot second was that the people, the fangirls, and all the people that were involved were going to start saying, Lin Ling, you can be nice. Lin Ling, you can turn into Nice. And well, you were being him already, so just turn into him again. Because now we've gotten rid of the perfectionism. We've gotten rid of the perfection, the OCD, knock on wood, as far as we know. But we've gotten rid of that. Instead, Lin Ling is able to be himself as a hero for now. For now, we're going to talk about that. But he is called the Commoner. I kind of love that. I wondered when I saw the title, I was like, what was the Commoner going to refer to? And then when Lin Ling was admitting him that it's him, I was like, oh, well, he's the Commoner. And now this is his hero name. Okay. Now, we're going to get into all sorts of things in this episode, so we're going to come back to this. But there's so much to take in with this. And this is one of those series where you got to watch it like every couple stages at a time. So we're going to pull this up here and just go through it in 3, 2, 1. I still can't believe that Moon is dead. I can't believe Moon is dead. I can't believe Moon is dead. I am, Lee Hao-lin being super equal opportunist. He's like, don't worry. I killed Nice off so that his partner had to suffer. Now I'm going to kill Lin Ling's could be partner up. So I'm going to kill them off so that he has to suffer as well. It's a shame Rek's not alive. They could commiserate together, but that's not likely to happen. So I am also very glad that it was a mannequin and not the actual Moon, because for a second I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. How could you find her? Whatever. And it was going to feel contrived. And instead they were like, no, it was just a mannequin and a dummy. And it not only made sense with the story, but it tied to God's Eye hating fakes and imposing that lesson upon to Lin Ling. So yeah. So of course, everybody, okay, again, there's that woman. They keep on having the X turn into O's. There's that woman in the black dress on the card. There she be. Who she is, we don't know. But yeah, so uproar with the public. Yeah, To Be Hero X. They keep just hammering it in our face, don't they? Yeah, Nice's trust value has plummeted because of it. I want to look at some of these other, like, what is this one thing here? It says something, the Witherspoon Corp. What does that one say? The strongest hero. Okay, and then there's one there. Moon came back from the dead. How does that happen? His position in the top 10 may be a short-lived one, with the Eye of the Truth taking Moon hostage for Nice to appear. So yeah, now I do appreciate right off the bat that the population that believes in Nice recognized that this could be a trap and that she was probably a fake. I'm at least glad that the population who support Nice, they're not entirely dumb. They get some of the tropes that could happen around Enlightener, around God's Eye. So that was kind of cool to see take place. I liked that was, and they're like, don't respond. And give him the silent treatment, which was nice. Now, as we go up and see God's Eye up at the tower, Jessica is on the phone with Mr. Shand. Is it Shand or Shang? Is there a translation issue? Maybe, I thought it was Mr. Shang, but now in this episode they said Mr. Shand. So that might be a typo. We're going to put Mr., and I'm going to put in quotation marks, Shand over here, that he is with the Treeman Foundation. He's the head, and Miss J works under him. Possibly does more than works under him, but we don't know that. And so, I don't know. Mr. Shand looks sketch as hell. I'm just going to say it. Sketch as hell. He's got the little flower in his lapel and everything in his little pocket, but everything about him, I'm like, he looks shady. Shady, shady, shady. Is he at the top of Hero Tower? Is he the number one hero? Is he at the top? It looks like he's in a tower. Yeah, we don't know where Moon went. And I don't know how Enlighter found her. Well, he clearly didn't find her. I'm surprised. I'm going to be real. I was honestly expecting Jessica and them to figure out that this isn't her. And I wonder if Mr. Shand figured it out but didn't say anything to see how this would all play out. Because he kind of gives vibes. He gives like omniscient narrator vibes that he's like overseeing all of this because he's a major player in the commission. So it would not surprise me if he figured it out. And instead of telling Jessica, like a responsible person, he's like, let's just see how this plays out and sees what the kid does. That's the thing. So I don't know. As long as we don't, admit to anything, we're going to be fine. Supporters of Nice and Moon's love will be our best defenders. So it says, Moon's resurrection causes massive stir. Nice falls into a mire of public opinion. I'm really glad that there were a lot of, oh my gosh, did this tea bag break? Because I feel like there's some crusty dusties in this. There was definitely some problems with Nice as a hero. Because if we're going to put Nice on the board, let's put him here. There was the problem of his perfectionism, in that it was becoming this kind of OCD for Lin Ling. And there was the problem of him and Moon. Of him and Moon's dynamic and all of that. The whole situation with Rek. And then just the fact that Lin Ling is not nice. Like, they just weren't the same people. And Lin Ling was constantly having to not only pretend to be somebody he wasn't, but the trust value from all of his supporters was just literally changing who he was on a chemical level. That type of body horror is insanely creepy to me. I can't emphasize it enough. And to add on to that, there was like many people who were envious of Nice. And so the live stream event was possibly because of God's Eye. This Moon has to be a fake, played by an actor. This guy's nothing special. I'm glad that they at least tried to acknowledge it. And he's like, you all are blinded by your own biases. Let me show everyone the true reality. And so they're like, in 1 hour, I'm going to kill Moon. Nice can either come and face me like a hero or whatever. And here's the body horror. The fact that they said don't go, and he just stopped. And not only did he just stop, he's like a rag doll. He just collapsed like a rag doll and looked like somebody just powered him down. There is an element of control over one's body and losing that control over one's body that is terrifying. And I'm glad that, here's my thing. I'm glad we're over that. I'm glad Lin Ling was like, I'm not nice. I'm not going to do that, whatever. Here's my thing. He was able to save Moon, quotation marks, because he shed Nice and instead was himself. He played himself. He was true to himself. He did what Firm Man said. I love that we immediately got like the callback to that. It was great. Here's the problem. This whole thing here, now he's Lin Ling. Now he is himself. However, the question is, are the followers going to influence, are they going to influence who he is, who he becomes? Here's the real body horror. Like, at least with it being nice, Lin Ling knew on the inside, he's like, well, this isn't who I really am. I'm just cosplaying as nice. I'm just pretending to be him. So like the perfectionism, all that, that's not me. That's this hero that I'm trying to imitate or pretend to be. And so when the influences happen, it's fine because it's not really affecting who Lin Ling is. It's just affecting nice. Now, on the one hand, while Lin Ling is able to be himself, what's going to happen when all the followers start to influence how Lin Ling acts? Then what's he going to do? How can he not be himself? So that in itself creates a whole new angle of body horror. So it's like we get through with one can of worms and now we open up a whole new can of worms. And it's like, just being a hero lends itself, as we've seen with Moon, being a hero is just not for everyone. Probably shouldn't do it. Wouldn't recommend. And Firm Man leaving the tower and quitting being a hero now seems like an amazing choice. But is Firm Man going to get assassinated? We don't know. Maybe he's already been assassinated. Who even knows? But yeah, they're like, now Moon. Mr. Shand he's like, I've already sent someone to deal with her. I don't know what to make of him. He seems so suspicious and seems so untrustworthy and shady. But I don't know. He wore black gloves inside his office. I understand wearing black gloves out in public when you're with the townsfolk, but you wore black gloves inside your office, sir? You sure? So we send Blankster. We're going to talk about Blankster. And then we see this like trust value for nice like plummeting. Okay. So going to skip past the OP for now. I know. It's going to be all right, though. And then we're going to dive back into this episode. I felt like just the fact that he couldn't move and his eyes were open and he was just like a rag doll that disturbs me on an extreme level that I can't quite articulate into words. But it was freaking me out at the time watching this. So he gets drugged back to where they're watching the live stream of God's Eye. And Jessica's like, look, you aren't going to be able to leave because your followers don't want you to leave. They've waited many years for you to be in the top 10. And he's like, well, what about Moon? And Jessica's like, well, she's already dead. Now, here's the thing. She says, do you want to sacrifice her life for those believers? Here's the problem. Isol is a hero from the commission. Isol, we're going to put him down here. We know that he is a hero because we established in the last episode that Magic Shadow was the villain that like literally bumped into Firm Man and blew up. Still not over it. And Isol was the hero that was like his nemesis. So, I'm wondering, these are just questions, if the commission was like, you're going to have to take out Moon. You're going to have to take out Moon for realsies. Because here's the thing. Lin Ling, it all worked out in his favor that his honesty won him favor from the public. His honesty and his genuine, like, heroism won him over with the fans. It could have ended really badly. And not only that, but luckily in this moment for the commission, for the Treeman Foundation, they found out that Moon was a mannequin that God's Eye was using to trick Nice into coming out of hiding. But if Lin Ling goes and brings Moon back into the public sector and everyone sees that the Treeman Foundation, that Nice was lying about her dying, then it's going to expose the Treeman Foundation for covering up lies. What else is it going to uncover? I think that Jessica and the commission and the Treeman Foundation specifically were shaken by the fact that God's Eye had so much intel on them. He had so much knowledge, especially about Blankster, that they were like, how did he get this? And so I think that's shaken them a little. So literally the commission, or not even the commission, but the Treeman Foundation specifically, they were like, you're going to have to take out Moon so that she's actually dead and that she can't come back and expose us for all of our lies. Now, how Lin Ling is going to react to all that, I don't know. You know that what they're going to do, the Treeman Foundation is going to be like, well, this was your choice. They're going to be like, you chose to be a hero and you chose to expose that Nice is dead. They're like, this is all you, man. You chose this. You led this to happen. I would bet money that that's what Jessica's going to tell him. And they're like, what are you going to do? Quit being a hero? That's the thing. He can't quit being a hero now because it's associated with his identity. What's he going to do? He's got to pretend to be somebody else if he wants out of it. Because you can't. Now his entire personality and identity is tied to the commoner. He can't just stop being the commoner and going back to just being a regular person. His following's not going to let him do that. So they've adopted him now that they know Nice is dead. That's messed up. That's messed up. And we're going to talk about it at the end a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, when she said here, Moon's practically dead. They're like, Moon is dead. No one believes she's still alive. Why would you sacrifice, why would you sacrifice your believers for someone else? And they're like, without this, you would be nothing. They created you. That's the kind of messed up part of this conversation, because when she said this to Lin Ling, I'm like, they created Nice, who died and committed suicide, and you all made Lin Ling take his place. So Lin Ling didn't cause all of this. He wasn't created by the fans, but it feels like a foreshadowing to, now that he's the commoner, what's going to happen with that. They're like, they granted you your perfect appearance and powers, which is crazy because from episode 2, it's like, well, but didn't this guy already kind of look like him? They're like, to become a hero, to become Nice. And then he's like, what? They're like, these are the chains that you have to endure. I love that. I do love that Lin Ling cares so much for Moon. I love that he loves her and he cares about her and he's fallen for her. He kept the swing up. And so when the commission says that these are the chains you have to bear, Lin Ling's like, or I could just stop being nice. And that's how I get out of this situation. Because his whole thing is that he genuinely likes Moon. And we're going to talk about that as we go a little further in this episode. But I freaking love Lin Ling in this episode. It's great. And she's like, don't worry too much. Mr. Shan has arranged for someone to save Moon. So we get Blankster. Tree Man's Blankster has arrived providing support. I'll tell you what, the Truman Foundation, they like dressing up people in gold and red. It felt very Gryffindor, if I may say so myself. Like, the red and gold look really good together. Someone has said in the Discord that in Lighter, I think it was Truck, describing in Lighter, aka God's Eye, as like a cross between Shin Ching Cho from Scum Villain Self-Saving System. And I think of Midorima from Kuroko's Basketball, but also from, Chi-Rong from Heaven Vigil's Blessing. Yeah, definitely a combination. And so, cleanup specialist. Here's some new body horror that's terrifying. I don't like this at all. So we have Blankster. I love how the backstory, though, combines with the power. That's genius. Genius. And so Blankster has this, like, physical strength. He has this physical strength kind of like Firm Man. But his punches erase memories. That's crazy! His punches erase memories, and it's tied to the fact that he cheated as a boxer. That is wild. That is so wild that him cheating as a boxer allowed him to gain the trust of the people around him, which allowed him to gain the power to punch people and make them lose their memories, which connects to him boxing and the people not remembering that he cheated. It's so good. But no. I have a big problem with, like, memories being tampered with. I have a problem with that because, I don't know, if you know people in your life that have suffered from Alzheimer's and dementia, you realize how precious memory is, and when it's lost, how terrifying that is. And it's something I'm not a fan of. So, yeah, famous for his iron fist. Just this entire aspect was just taking body horror to a new degree. It really is. So he ends up fighting God's Eye, manages to get some punch. Not only can his punches deal physical damage, but they destroy his opponent's memories. Also, for him being a lapdog of the commission, that seems highly convenient. They're like, we'll just have this guy go fight you and you'll forget about lots of... That's a freaking mob move. I'm sorry, that's a mafia mobster move. Having this guy come and clean up and making you forget it like freaking Men in Black. No, thank you. That's shady as F. And then, of course, at the time when all this is going on and Enlighter's getting punched, right? That's when Nice is like, oh, Moon. He's like, God, Eye, and Moon are the only ones who know your secret identity aside from us. So if we erase his memories, then no one else in the world would know that you're Lin Ling. Well, that doesn't work out for the commission because he ends up telling everyone that he's Lin Ling. And so, like, it may not be a bad thing for her to forget. Yeah, so, I mean, here's the thing. The whole thing about forgetting, there was a benefit to it. So they're like, look, if we can get God's Eye and Moon to forget you, then we got it made. We're going to talk about this in a hot second, but they're like, we can have Blankster punch Moon, which is just the concept of that alone is like, what? So I don't blame Lin Ling for freaking out about that, but they're like, we'll just have Blankster punch these two. They'll forget about you. Now, here's the deal. God's Eye has a lot of memories built up about Nice because he's been researching him for so long, but they're like, we just need him to punch him until he forgets that you're him. It'll be fine. And then once these two are out of the picture, then no one else will know your identity. We can go back to things being normal again. You can continue to be nice. It'll be perfectly fine. Da 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 da. But I do understand why Lin Ling would not want the Blankster to punch Moon, because why would he want someone he cares about getting hurt? Because it does deal physical damage in addition to making you forget. So I understand that. There was one part of it though where as the reaction was going on, I was like, if she did accidentally get punched, I wouldn't want her to because I don't want her to get hurt. But her whole deal was that she didn't like Nice. She wasn't attracted to Nice. She didn't want to be his girlfriend. On the one hand, in hindsight, just to play devil's advocate, if she did happen to get accidentally punched by Blankster and she forgot about, but here's the thing, she was going to forget about Lin Ling being nice. At first I thought, okay, well, if she forgot about Lin Ling being nice, then I guess that would still work. If she forgot that Lin Ling was nice and Lin Ling went up to Moon as himself, then that wouldn't be a bad thing because she wouldn't know to associate nice with him and she could actually genuinely form a connection with him. But the commission's not going to let that happen or the Treeman Foundation is not going to let that happen as we find out. So yeah, so they identify a bunch of vulnerabilities and flaws, and that's when he's able to fight against Blankster in that moment. I did like Blankster's outfit. He kind of reminded me of Hawks from My Hero Academia. Treeman put all the effort into packaging you as a hero, but you have all kinds of tricks to cover up your imperfections. But in the end, truth will prevail. There is a part about God's Eye that I kind of liked, though, because I liked the fact that he was exposing the corruption. I mean, there's a lot of corruption in the Treeman Foundation, as we're finding out. So I kind of didn't mind that God's Eye was trying to, expose it, right? So, here, I like this, God Eye, and where he's like, public image falls apart. Boxing hero rose to fame through fraud. Cheater boxer deceives the public. Dirty scam. The Treeman group deceives the public. So yeah, I mean, am I mad that the God's Eye is trying to expose that the Treeman Foundation is shady as shit? No, it's just the methods in which he does so are a bit villainous. MSJ's like, how'd he get his hands on this information? But this was my favorite part, I think. This is my favorite, fourth wall joke, is that they're like, the IT team is working on it. The IT team is a bunch of her fuckboys that she keeps around with her all the time. Are we surprised they're not good at doing their job? I love she just carries around her own personal IT team and they're absolute garbage. And Mr. Shand does not seem too impressed, but isn't that always how it goes? Look, if you are part of an IT team, what I'm about to say is meant to be a joke, and I do not mean any offense to your profession, and you are a valued member of any corporation and job that you work for. I want you to know this. You are valued. You have a great job. That's great. That being said, I work at an institution where stuff messes up frequently with technology, and we are at the sole mercy of our IT department. And sometimes, not all, but sometimes it feels like you need Samuel L. Jackson and you get frickin' Newman. So these guys are a bunch of Newmans. So I'm like, oh my God, the IT team is working on it. It'll need a bit of time. And he's like, we're out of time. Okay, is there anything on this that we need to know? Just the stories are on there. That's all we need to kind of glance at. Got that on there. Information is going to spread once the believers see it. The Iron Fist. I did love... Okay, so then they're tracking the... Wow. Okay, so there are so many different... You can see on Shan's page here, he's tracking the trust values of multiple heroes. So like the one in the corner that's like at 3,152, I'm wondering if that is Nice's, because his over here was only at like 3,000 something and then it dropped down to like 2 something. So interesting, or 3 million. Okay. If this continues, his powers will be reduced to nothing. I love the transition here of into the 2D animation, and I love that the boxing like brought Blankster back to like as he was a young man, as he was a teenager, and then back to even when he was a kid. Like that was kind of really cool. And again, they make God's Eye look really cool in this. I loved his design. It was great. But yeah, also, there was like a Sega game. Was it Vector Man? I think it's Vector Man, where you had all the little bloopy balls like connect together and you could make like chains and stuff out of it. That's what his ability, that's what God's Eye ability was making me think of, was Vector Man. Fun times. There's probably another Sega game I'm thinking of as well. Comment down below if you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, and then she's like, is it done? You have 1 minute. And she's like, I'll replace all of you. Like, girl, your buffet of boy is doing nothing over here. I freaking love it. It's hilarious. They are just the best goons. I love them as lackeys. So then he's like, nice, you are next. I'm going to let everyone see all you have is a miserable soul. Now, here's the thing. If God's Eye was talking about the original Nice, then he was kind of miserable because he was having to pretend to be somebody he wasn't. Surprise, surprise. There's been a tradition with Nice so far. Both people who have played him are not really like the person they're playing, and that's led them to their demise. With the OG Nice, it led to him falling off the building to his death. With Lin Ling's Nice, it led to Lin Ling abandoning Nice to become his own hero, which I'm glad. First of all, with this little spot here, I'm like, Lin Ling does not have a miserable soul, so back up, God's Eye. You're thinking of OG Nice. But the other thing is, I was kind of hoping that this storyline would happen. I just thought it would happen like episode 15 or 16 or 23. I thought it would happen at the very end of the series, rather than... I honestly thought that my headcanon that I've been theorizing about is that Lin Ling was going to be nice, then he was going to become a villain because of his fear of his perfectionism, and then in the climax he was going to overcome his fear and his villainy to become his own hero and then become the commoner in the end. I thought this was like episode 23 material, not episode 4 material. That's wild. Episode 4, y'all? Crazy. Episode 4 is crazy. That is insane. Just what? So yeah, and that's when he realizes, he's like, okay, before he realizes it, we see the ad that he made about Nice, a savior in the moment of crisis, the thing we saw from episode 1, right? And he's like, in this era where heroes are forged by trust, everyone creates heroes. And everyone can become heroes. And he does the nice pose. See, it's like Lin Ling from the start. It's kind of like he was forgetting his roots. And then that little promo he did that he sent to Miss J that got rejected, it brought him back and it gave him the incentive and inspiration that he's like, I don't have to wait. He's like, I can become Hero X. I don't have to wait for, Nice to be the top hero. He's like, I can just go and do it myself. And they're like, oh, it was the newest promo video in your email inbox. And then he went on his own. He's like, I'm not Nice. I'm Lin Ling. I freaking love it. I love him shedding the hair. It slowly turns back. I do like that he kept the little wisp. I like that he kept the little wisp. The little rogue streak is fun. I like it. It's kind of like a nod. Let me find this. Where have you done, buddy? Okay. It's kind of like a nod that Nice was where he got his, origin story. It was tied to his origin story. It allowed him to have the opportunity to become a hero. So it's kind of like a little nod. I'm going to give Nice some credit, but I'm also going to be my own hero. That shot, I'm not nice. Ah! Also, look, I was waiting for him to become a villain and for somebody to be like, but you're nice, and for him to turn and be a villain and be like, I'm not nice. Like, that would have been the perfect villain move. The perfect heel turn. That would have been so good. But no, instead, I'll settle for him being the commoner. I love it. And I love that he just changes back to himself. Like, his jawline changes, his eye color changes. He lets go of the cape. I love the moment he lets go of the cape. It, like, lets him become, like, back to being himself with, like, the black shirt on. But I also like that he takes inspiration from Moon in that moment, saying that I don't know what I want to be, but I know what I don't want to be. And he's like, I'm tired of pretending to be somebody that I'm not. He's like, what I wanted to become from the beginning wasn't nice, but was to be my own hero. I love it. Yep. And I love that he just charges past everybody. My only question is, he's like, I'm actually not nice. Again, all these lines would work so good for a villain, but it's fine. My only question is, how did he get up there? How did he get up onto that tower without Nice's powers? That is my only question in this episode. He's like, I didn't think his powers would diminish so quickly. These supporters really are worthless. I do agree with God's Eye in that they are quick to believe and disbelieve. That's very true. My only question in this whole episode is how did Lin Ling get up there so fast? That is my only question. That's all I got. That's my only question. If you can help down below without spoiling, and there's a way to say it without spoiling, I am all ears. But yeah, and he's like the main character. See, here's the thing. God's Eye thought this was really going to work out in his favor. He's like, I've got the main guy to come on stage. I'm going to expose him for pretending to be nice. Everyone's going to hate him. It's going to ruin the entire hero facade. It's going to all work out in my favor. But you underestimated the power of the damn fangirl. You underestimated it so hard, God's Eye. So hard. I do like this crackly screen where it's like, to be here, to be her, to be her. To be Moon is to be dead. So let's let them know who you really are. And I'm just glad this happened. I'm glad that Lin Ling exposed who he is. Jessica's freaking out with her IT group. Everyone here is walking around like a bunch of Sims. Yeah. But then, yeah, I'm just a regular person. I'm so glad Lin Ling gets to admit this. I'm glad he gets to be his own person. Highly fearful for what will happen from it, but really sad that, really happy that he doesn't have to be nice anymore. I'm glad that he gets to be his own person. I was sad that at work, that at the beginning, everybody was like, kind of, disengaging with him. They're like, can you explain what's going on? They're like, Nice is dead. Is this for real? This Lin Ling guy used to be my coworker. Didn't he jump to his death? And they're like, well, then they've been switched. So who died then? They've been switched. And he's like, I was originally an average, mediocre person. And of course, it does the thing where, he explains everything. He's like, I was working behind the scenes. And at the beginning, they kind of explain, like, they're like, oh, we don't trust him. And, like, he deserves everything that happens to him. Like, they do the stereotypical, like, let's make him the underdog. And everybody's bullying him. And then when he starts to, like, rally, that's when everybody kind of, like, turns and decides to trust him. I became nice. And I do appreciate, again, because Lin Ling is a damn saint, he doesn't just say, oh, Nice, jump to his death. He's like, until one day, by sheer chance, I became nice and inherited his trust value. He doesn't expose the Treatment Foundation, doesn't expose all the dirt. He keeps it very clean, which is, for his sake, a good thing, because I think they would have killed him otherwise. And he's like, I worked hard to make myself more like Nice. Even when someone warned me to remember myself, but I'm now giving up the identity of Nice. Yeah. And so, of course, this is flying in the face of what God's Eye wanted. God's Eye wanted to humiliate him, not have him accept that he's not nice. And then he tries to expose Moon by saying, well, she's guilty for colluding with you. And then so his trust value's down to like 1,000, even if I'm no longer nice. For Moon, I will defeat you. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? I appreciate that Lin Ling is so sweet and he's being like the chivalrous hero. He's like, he cares for Moon. He loves her. He wants to defeat God's Eye because of that. He gets the crap beat out of him. They did not pull punches. I mean, God's Eye pulled a lot of punches on Lin Ling, but this was just, it was brutal to watch at times. I was like glued to the screen, but it was so hard to watch sometimes because it was just very brutal. And they're like, well, what? And this is what I'm talking about. They said, what relationship does he have with Moon? It's all in his head. And they're like, well, but if Nice was dead a long time ago, then the one who cried for Moon at the wedding is him. And that's the moment I'm like, look, these girls need some more AO3 fanfic fodder, and you've just given them a bucket load. So yeah, and Miss J's like, this kid is hopeless. He just gave up my future. And now he's going to give up his life. My future. So why is she tying her future in with him? They're like, why is he playing the hero? And then somebody asks, shouldn't the commission do something? Well, you would think the commission would send somebody in, you know, now that Blankster's out of commission, literally, you'd think that the foundation, the Treatment Foundation or the commission would send somebody to help. But no, I don't think Mr. Shand was going to do that, because I think Mr. Shand was testing to see either one of two things was going to happen. Either he was going to gain the trust of the people and become a hero in Nice's place, now that Nice is essentially dead, as well as literally, or he was going to get killed. And Nice was already dead anyway, so what does it matter? So they weren't going to send anybody to help. Nope. And then, I guess in some ways, though, to try to justify why the commission and the Treatment Foundation didn't send anybody, there's someone that replies saying, well, whoever interferes is the guilty party. So he took on this responsibility of being nice, so it's all on him. The fake hero stuff is sticking wet hands into flour. It's messy business. That's such a metaphor, such an allegory. But yeah, so they fight. It's very gruesome, not fun to watch. And so God's Eye is pretty confident that he's like, there's no more real heroes in this era. And the ones responsible for this aren't just the commission or the hero agencies, but the audience. Now, he does speak some truth with this, that it is the audience that's kind of responsible for a lot of what's going on with the trust values and the heroes. And the fact that a lot of the heroes aren't authentic anymore is because the fans and the audience are affecting how they are as heroes. So he's not wrong. It's just the way in which he's spouting these truths is not in a great format, and nobody wants to pay attention to it. And Lin Ling, who is solely focused, this is the part that's crazy. Lin Ling, if he were listening to God's Eye and seeing like, yeah, you know, that is kind of messed up, but he's not thinking about that right now because he's trying to rescue Moon. So, and I don't blame him for being distracted. And he's like, without... God's Eye was all about packaging. God's Eye kept talking about packaging. He kept saying, like, the packaging of Blankster, the packaging of Nice. He's like, you all are meant to look perfect in these little picturesque moments. He's like, but you're not. Without your exquisite packaging, who's going to cheer for a cheating clown like you? And I do appreciate that with both Blankster. Like, he views Blankster and Lin Ling in the same light. He's like, they both cheated their way into their positions. Blankster cheated his way into his hero-ship, and Lin Ling cheated his way into being nice and being the top 10 hero. And as someone that was the 249th or 250th hero, being God's Eye as in lighter, he feels kind of jaded about that. He's like, I did actual journalism and I wasn't rewarded, but you're impersonating someone that's dead and you get catapulted into 10th place. That's not fair. And yeah, to quote Naomi Smalls, the drag queen, though, life's not fair. But anyway, he's like, anyone can become a hero. And he's like, well, do you look at you now? The moment I felt... Now, was this part super romantic? Yes, the moment I felt I truly wanted to become a hero was the moment... It wasn't when I reached the top 10. It wasn't when I did this. It was when I truly developed feelings for someone. Someone for whom I'm willing to give up everything to protect. Well, glad she didn't see that conversation, because that would have made her death even more heartbreaking. We're going to talk about that. So yeah, so Lin Ling establishes that his moment of becoming a hero was basically putting it all on the line, putting his life on the line to protect someone he cares for. Yep. Okay. Now, I was very torn by this moment in like thinking about what would happen in hindsight, because for a moment I thought that maybe I was like, is Moon able, before we found out she was stranded on a desert island, which we'll talk about that in a moment. So I guess we'll put Moon over here. Before we found out the situation with Moon, I thought this scenario, we're going to put it over here, that if she was off on vacation anywhere else that had access to technology and the way to connect to people, then I thought if she saw this like airing or broadcasting and heard Lin Ling say that, you know, his moment of becoming a hero was putting everything on the line for someone to protect, I didn't want her to feel guilt tripped into liking him. She was not, and we're going to talk about why she was not and why it really works well in this episode. But for a moment, I get worried about that sometimes, especially with female characters and stories. Hear me out. Hear me out. I, as someone who has read many a book and as someone who is in fact a woman, it has been very frustrating to read stories where the woman is not necessarily guilt tripped, but the guy's like, look at all these amazing things I did for you, and I love you, and I nearly died for you, and I did all these chivalrous things for your affection. And if she didn't really like him to begin with, it almost feels sometimes like she's kind of guilt tripped or pressured into liking him because he did all, it's the nice guy syndrome. Like the guy's like, well, I'm just a nice guy and I did all these nice things. And she's like, but I don't like you. And so it's almost like she's expected to reciprocate the affection because it's given to her in such a nice way. But that's not how love should work, nor, you know, if she had saw the broadcast and in that moment had this revelation, she's like, oh, wow, he's not like nice. He's his own person. I really appreciate and admire that. And maybe this could develop into something. Then sure. But I don't ever feel like any character, whether they're male or female, they don't ever have to be like expected to reciprocate because someone likes you. That's just, it irks me. It irks me a lot. And I don't like that trope. But it doesn't happen in this, which is great. But he admits that he likes her. And that he became a hero to protect her, which is awesome. And then as he like headbutts him, which what a headbutt. That was good on Lin Ling. I do like also the fact that they talked about how when Lin Ling became himself instead of nice, they're like, why is he so scrawny and where'd all his muscles go? That was a good little on the nose thing. He doesn't look too different in physique in the show, but he is. Also, the back billboard there says Clash, which is pretty fitting for this moment. And the girls are like, yeah, that's such a moment. Oh, they just made Lin Ling be so brutal there. So yeah, so he headbutts him and they go. The little goggles that were done by the Spotlight organization get broken. It was hard to detect Lin Ling's vulnerabilities through that. Yep. And then just Lin Ling just beat the tar out of him. And he's like, wait a minute. And he's like, nope, you beat the crud out of me. Now it's vice versa. But yeah, we're going to get past this. And they're like, what was his name again? I think it was Lin Ling. Why should you cheating assholes deserve to be respected and loved? Man, God's Eye was projecting a lot. Projecting a lot in this episode. Quite a bit. He's like, I'll tear off your mask and show everyone. It just really did not work out for him. Didn't work out for God's Eye. He had a great effort in trying to expose the Truman Foundation. Admirable effort, but Lin Ling is in fact a pure soul. And he ends up being able to defeat God's Eye. I love the 2D animation. It was great. The power, of course, you have to know where the power is coming from. And then he's like, what am I supposed to do? That was a really good shot there. Yep. And then Lin Ling getting all of this like physical strength. I wonder what we don't get to see a lot with the commoner, so I'm going to be curious like what his abilities are. Like, can he fly like nice? What are the people going to give him as terms of power? Right? What's going to happen with that? This part here was great, where it was like the sketchy 2D. That was really cool. Loved that. That was so badass. And he like literally like took off through the wall. Crazy. Yep. And then there we go. Boom. Punched. Knockout. KO. And there we go. Yep. And that was it. So now we find out the Treeman Foundation is not the only foundation that looks for heroes. So we get this guy whose pad is extremely sweet. Love this. Love the giant joystick. They're like, I'd like to sign him. I'll notify Headhunter right away. So we get Headhunter is one that's mentioned. And he's like, I'll call him myself. Headhunter's with some organization. We don't know who they are. I like the Atari joystick. It's fun. And then we have this other place where this guy in this suit with all these books looks like he's about to go bear hunting. Is that like an owl above one of the cases? Otherwise, someone's going to steal him. Okay, so we saw some of the trust values. We saw like 2 of them plummet, right? Interesting. And then we see, I'm assuming that's Blankster maybe and Nice, or God's Eye and Nice. And then Lin Ling's starts to rise. And then we see this other one. This guy has an hourglass and also looks interesting. And they're like, what's his hero name? He doesn't have a title, but his name is Lin Ling. Uh-huh. Okay. And then our boy. Yep. He ends up becoming a hero. Stops God's Eye. Knocks him out. He punched him so hard that he knocked his clothes off. He punched him so hard he knocked his top off and got into instant fan service mode. And he's like, why are you suddenly so strong? What is the truth? I love that line. What is the truth? I mean, here's the thing. The truth of the matter is that the fandom got behind Lin Ling. They found him to be genuine. Mm-hmm. They found his story to be genuine, and it worked. I'm sure that what is the truth is a question that applies to a lot of other things, but we don't get any answers into that. So yeah. And like, he was willing to sacrifice himself for Moon. He really is the one from the wedding. Uh-huh. His trust value shot back up to Nice's level from before. It is a little disturbing that that's all that they care about, is that the trust value got him back in the top 10 spot. Like, Moon could have died, but we were fine with that. But, you know, well, they end up shooting her in the end, so I guess they are. And then they're like, we're going to pin everything on Enlightener. So they already decided. They already decided how they were going to cover everything up, sweep it under the rug, move on. They're like, nobody's going to care about anything else but Lin Ling. That's the sad thing, is that Lin Ling, this is his moment of being an actual hero, of getting to actually be what he's been wanting to be the entire time. And he's such a precious, innocent being. The first thing he thinks of is Moon okay? This precious angel. And then he's like, I finally found the direction my heart wants. That's so messed up! That's so messed up! Because you have the idea that you had Nice and Rec, who ended up going different directions because they were playing on the script. Maybe Nice wanted to get back with Rec and wasn't being allowed to, so he went all Juliet. Maybe that was it, right? Or he went all Romeo. Maybe that was it, right? But then you have Lin Ling, who decided that he's like, man, I screwed up. I didn't admit to you back then that I liked you, but I want you to know now I became a hero to save you. And I know that I want to be my own hero, and I want to meet you on your own terms. And then it turns out to be a mannequin. He's like, at least God's Eye is like, how would I know where she is? Obviously it was a trap. I mean, I am surprised that Jessica and them didn't figure it out. I am surprised that Mr. Shand knows. I think he knew all along. But I'm surprised that look, Isol can go insanely fast. We found out Isol can go insanely fast. So did they have a tracker on Lin Ling and a tracker on the gun? And the moment they found out where he was, they realized where she was, and they sent Isol to assassinate her because he could go so fast. Maybe. Also, the billboard back there says, X your. All of it was to bait you to telling the truth. And he's like, well, you're anti-fake and you used a fake. I like that. I like that with his head and everything beat up, Lin Ling is like, what are you doing? How dare you? You're shameless. And he's like, well, now you understand why I hate fakes. Now you get it. So, meanwhile, once again, they talk about the Spotlight organization and it bringing fear to the masses. The commission expressed great concern and has formed a special investigation team. I'm sure they have. That was the thing when they were like, the commission expressed great concern and formed an investigative team. I'm like, they ain't gonna investigate shit. They're just gonna blame it on God's eye and move on. Like, we all know how this is gonna go. Okay, so there's some billboards on here. The XFC, where it's the X guy instead of KFC. I don't know. The XFC guy, it looks a lot like Mr. Shand. I'm gonna call that it's Mr. Shand right now. I'm gonna call that he's X. I'm going to say that the Truman Foundation head is X. I'm going to call it right now. Because with the glasses, he looks kind of like him. I don't know. Then it says artist card, and there's a cake with a piece out of it. It says Earth, the World Earth Day, April 22nd. Interesting. Office and signage. DACMAC. There's a billboard that says, let's go on a date. Kind of tying to what's about to happen with Moon and the Commoner. And so, yeah, his trust value remains at rank 10 within the commission. And then they said the Commoner. I love Lin Ling's outfit. I love that it's the black and the white. And it mixes like his hair there. He looks so good. Yep. So, then we find out about Moon. And where Moon ended up. I was an actress. I was given a chance to go wherever my heart desired. And I wished to go to a place where no one knew me and where no one would disturb me. And I didn't expect it to be on an uninhabited island. So there is a monkey's paw with these powers. That if you don't respect the powers and you don't understand how the monkey's paw worked, you could end up like old castaway Tom Hanks out there with a volleyball Wilson. You could end up like that. And that's where poor Moon ended up. That sucks. That sucks. That part of it, I was like, okay, because when she's stranded, again, when she's stranded and we had Lin Ling show up to give her the gun. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about that. I felt bad for Moon. I was like, oh my God, I guess that makes sense why everyone was confused because no one could confirm she was somewhere else. Because you would think somebody would look online to see where she is. Because I'm sure she'd still be kind of recognizable even if she wasn't a hero. Maybe. But, somebody could be like, well, this lady kind of looks like her. And she figured out the latitude and longitude. But all of her bottles kept coming back to her. That sucks. That sucks a lot. And so she's like, I guess I'll just have to be here all by myself. I guess I'll just spend the rest of my life here by myself. That was going to be awful. So I'm like, okay. Because at first I was like, like I said, I don't want anybody to be pressured into loving someone. That really bothers me as a trope. And so even after he admitted everything, I'm like, well, that's great. But if she doesn't come find you, then it's not mutual and you're just going to have to move on, right? And so when we saw that she was on the desert island all by herself, I was like, well, that kind of sucks. Maybe is he going to come see her? And then the portal opens up and he shows up, which, man, I do love the drip. I do love, he has like the belt that's kind of gold and like looks kind of like the hero. I guess that's supposed to be like the Truman Foundation. He's got like the black with the white. I like it. I like the design a lot. I like the hero suit. It looks like he's about to go run a 5K. I love it for him. Good job. But yeah. And then she sees him and she doesn't know at first who he is. She's just like, oh, thank God someone found me. But then she realizes you have the gun. This is probably Lin Ling because you said you were nice. So as the portal is closing up, they face each other. I like she has the black shirt on. And he's like, you left so quickly that you forgot about this. That Lin Ling immediately cleared all of my concerns because my concern was he was going to show up and confess to her And because this woman is stranded on a desert island with no hope of going back, I was like, I sure hope that she doesn't just like latch onto him because he's like literally the savior metaphor to get her out of there. But then he gave her the gun. And I was like, no, that Lin Ling is defying that stereotype. Lin Ling was like, here, I don't expect you to like me back. I don't expect you to do anything with this. He's like, he doesn't even tell her that he doesn't even say like, hey, I just confessed in front of the world that I love you. Didn't even do any of that. He was just like, here's the gun. Now you can leave and go wherever you want to. Like, that's so good. And that gives her the opportunity to be like, hey, since you're not nice, who I definitely don't like, can I get to know you, Lin Ling? And that could have led to them being together, could have led to something like that. That sounds amazing. And he's like, are you having fun? And she's like, well, no, I'm stranded on a desert island. Not really. She's like, I don't ever want to go on such a long vacation ever again. Yep. And so it's kind of like, it's really cute. And you're like, aw. And then that's when she gets shot in the head by Isol. What the fudge? What the actual fudge? What? I mean, are we surprised? The Truman Foundation is not going to let Moon be discovered that she was alive because that would expose them that they've been lying about the whole thing, right? At least now they can be like, yes, we did have somebody imitate Nice, but Moon is actually dead, and now Nice is actually dead. I don't know. Who knows how these things happened? Uh-huh. That's crazy. And the pose she falls in is what he saw in his flashback in his mind. So that begs a couple things to be said. One is his persona as a hero. Has that been dormant the entire time? And was him seeing the ominous foreshadowing of her dead part of the commoner's ability? Is he able to see flashes of the future? Is that part of his ability? Or what is the reason behind that? The crazy thing about it is, if he hadn't used the gun to trace her, then they wouldn't have found her and they wouldn't have killed her. So he's responsible for her dying for real. Now, would she have eventually died because she would have died on that island and eventually starved? Maybe. Probably. But that is absolutely insane. And then he's just like, what the fudge? There's like blood on his eyeball. That's crazy. And then he looks up and sees Isol. So what do we do with that? What do we do with that? And then we cut to this that says 15 days until the 21st Heroes Tournament. Jessica's like, you ain't got time to be a lover boy. We got a Heroes Tournament coming up. You ain't got time to be smoozing and going on dates. We have a Heroes Tournament to rise you through the ranks, Mr. Hero. What? So 15 days. So we got 2 weeks until the 21st Heroes Tournament. Okay, so the commission has been in line for 41 years. So this is the 21st. So when the Heroes Commission was 20 years old, it decided to have a Heroes Tournament. What does that entail? I don't know. Does the smile incident that Nice was involved in, was that something that happened at the last Heroes Tournament with a different hero named Smile? I don't know. Moon was done dirty. I was like, just let this girl go off and have her own life and let her be free, damn it. And Lee Hao-lin was like, no. There's only one way she can be free, and this is the only way we can do it. I'm sorry. I was going to get mad for a second because whenever, I read a lot of BL and I read a lot of yaoi, and I was going to get a little bit angry because it seemed like we were having there's like the bury your gays meme, which is like, you can't have like the gay couple can't have a happy ending, but the heterosexual couple is going to have a happy ending. And so at first I was like, oh, we'll kill off the two gay characters, but these two are fine. And then Lee Hao-lin was like, I am an equal opportunist. I'm going to let no one be happy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, as long as you're fair. No! Why are we torturing our boy? Why are we torturing Lin Ling? This is not fair. Not fair to Lin Ling at all. Y'all. Ah. So I am going to wait around and see what the comments are for episodes 2 and 3 before I dive into episode 5, but I'm not going to wait any longer than that. I'm going to be like munching on that episode, so it will happen sooner than y'all think, but oh my God. I've talked for an hour about this episode, and I'm excited to hear y'all's thoughts down below, but Lee Hao Lin, that was unnecessary. Anyway, you could have just let her like not know. You could have just let her not know, but nope, we gotta cut these loose ends. Can't be having anything getting past the Treatment Foundation. Anyway, so I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, but I'll be back very soon with episode 5 of To Be Hero X. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.